Hey guys, it's Mr. Lamer. Welcome to Surgers. Welcome to Thursday. It's what is it, a day now after Iowa assessments. Welcome back. We're going to get right into it. All right, we got a lot of stuff we got to cover here in this short video. It may be a little longer than I hope, but that's all right. Bear with me as I get through this. All right, we got a lot to cover, as I said. All right, I'm going to start recording our screen here just so we can all be on the same page. Here we go. And now that I got that going here, we're going to see what we got to do today. We're going to be completing lesson 5 introduction, which is right here. After or as we also go through our lesson today, which is right here. So we're going to be covering lesson 5. We're going to be getting an introduction of what we're going to be studying here for the next little bit, probably for a while. And I'm going to give you a brief history of English, and we're going to talk about what we're going to be studying here specifically when it comes to the Latin roots of English. All right. But before we do that, we're going to have we have a small agenda. I just wanted to quick remind you that we are going to continue writing. So on Monday we completed lesson 5, day 2. That was here. If you see right here, we see that there are 3 people who are not done. Let me click on there. It is Jayla, who was not here, I believe, on Monday, Christopher, and Genevieve. Please complete those when you get a chance. Thank you for the rest of you guys who have submitted those. I will get to looking those as soon as I can. If you click here on the assignments, you'll notice, as Savion noticed the other day, I still have not been able to complete the grading of the rest of these. I will, and I do intend to. Savion was wondering because he had already completed some of the other assignments, and I want to make sure that I get everyone up to date and sort of on track with that. So thanks for noticing, Savion. Again, I'll try and take care of that as much as I can. All right, as quickly as I can. All right, so again, 5th grade writing. We're going to be working today at about 10:30. As of right now, this is Wednesday night. We're going to be working on the DARE essay tomorrow. I found out, by the way, that DARE does not mean what it was meant by when we talked about it during our time down in with Miss Wimette. I forgot what it is that she said, but it wasn't this. I believe that what it is, and I actually followed this link from this young woman here. I believe it's drug abuse resistance education, I believe. And I believe that Miss Wimette was initially accurate in her thoughts on what it was. And I wonder where she got that other acronym from. But anyway, so we're going to be working on that for Thursday and Friday of this week. And again, please give me any video suggestions you can. This, I think, is only the second one that I've actually made and submitted to you. So bear with me. I hope to get better at these things. I say a lot. I know that. I want to make them shorter as well. I'll do the best that I can. As I said, this video here today might be a little bit longer than what I would like these videos to be, but I got a lot of stuff I've got to cover here. So with that said, we need to get into the lesson. I'll close these here that I know that we're not going to be covering anymore. So again, let me quick ask these questions. What is the difference between the kinds of words we've studied so far and the ones that we're going to be studying for the next while? What are some of the influences of our English language? You're going to write those down. So one of these diagrams will come up. And as you fill out your sheet, if you miss that, you can always click on this. And then we'll bring you right to that page as well. We're going to be talking about Latin affixes, a little history of our English language. And this is a super easy thing to quick fill out as we go through. And then the last one, why? The question is this is a summary question. Why would knowing Spanish or French or Portuguese or Italian or Romanian or Catalan be helpful in learning English? So if you already know any of these languages right here, the question is why would that be helpful? I'm going to hopefully answer that for you. And when I do, again, you can answer this similar question. Or here's another question with the same exact answer. How would knowing Latin help someone learn Spanish and French and Portuguese and Italian or Italian or Romanian or Catalan? All right, I hope to tackle all these things, okay? So with that said, pull up this Google map. All right, we see our little neck of the woods down here. This is Iowa. In this country, we speak English. All right, we already know this is nothing new to you. In Canada, they mostly speak English as well, about this part right here. But then there's this big province right here called Quebec. And in Quebec, they speak French. If you already knew that, congratulations. So they speak Quebec right there. And there's actually sections of this province as well that speak French. But for the most part, these two countries both speak English. Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Belize, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, all these countries down here, they speak Spanish, all right? And they speak Spanish for similar reasons that actually the United States speaks English. So what we're going to be doing, or what we have talked about so far, are words. Up to this point, lessons 1 through 4, we've talked about words that have affixes that we can attach to them. Prefixes, chunks of letters that we put at the beginning, and suffixes, chunks of letters that we put at the end, that have a basic root word that you are already familiar with. All right, so here's a couple of examples that we've been covering. Sorry, the word here is mysterious. The suffix that we added, obviously, is IOUS. And the IOUS ends up changing the word, but if you don't know what the IOUS suffix does to the word, you still kind of retain somewhat of an understanding of this word because you're already familiar with the basic root word. These are kind of like standalone, simple base words. All right, the same thing with the word bravery. All right, if you didn't know what bravery meant, you probably already saw that the root word of this word is brave, and already have some kind of conception of what this word probably already means. But this is not true when you get to Latin roots. Latin roots are a bit of a different beast. Okay, so when I take a look at these two words, instruct and provoke, if I were to remove the prefix from both of these, right, I'd have the word struct. Or if I removed the word, the prefix from the word provoke, I'm left with voke. And you may already have some familiarity with this, especially if you speak Spanish. And you probably don't, but you might. And if you do, good. You're already ahead of the game with us. All right, so we're taking a look at these two words. What we need to do is we need to understand that these words have all Latin in them. And Latin is a special thing because when you add Latin roots to each other, it's kind of like Legos being put together. It's sort of, you make a word, and each Lego by itself isn't really all that special. But when you add it to other Legos, you start to build something that makes it more recognizable, more interesting, and much more useful for communicating ideas or thoughts. All right. So let me see if I've answered. Well, let's just quick go back and see if we've answered any of these things right here. All right, I've already answered this one. What is the difference between the kinds of words we've studied so far and the ones that we're going to be studied for the next while? It has something to do, obviously, with these having basic root words or standalone words independent of any of the affixes that we add to them. And Latin do not have any basic root words that we can understand. So we need to kind of we need to begin to try to understand these Latin root words in order to make sense of more English words. And I'll show you the reason why in just a moment, all right? One of the things that we need to start understanding a bit of is language as something of a tree, something that grows, something that matures, all right? Languages do not and have not just stayed the same from the moment that they were born to the moment that they've matured. All right. Think of language, and this is what oftentimes linguists like to do, is they like to think of language in terms of a tree. Okay. Trees oftentimes describe a very good relationship because they branch out. Languages eventually, they take something from another language, they have parents, and then they sort of grow from there. And English is the same way. All right. This right here shows us that English has a bunch of roots in Germanic languages, but we also see, if you look closely up here on the next picture, that we have many influences that come in to make up what English really is. All right, so English really has many parents or many influences, which I believe is one of our questions for today. Yep. What are some of the influences of English language? It's right here. All right. We have Germanic influences. We have French influences and Latin influences, and they comprise most of the English language. All right. So Latin, if you know anything about French and Latin, you'll know that actually French and Latin, here we go. Here's France. French and Latin are actually super similar. All right. So it's really helpful. Actually, French is a form of Latin. And so right here, a huge chunk, what I'm talking like more than 50%. So what is that? Maybe like 35, 40%, somewhere between 35 and 40% of the entire English language is comprised of Latin. You're saying, I mean, this is why. This is why we need to study Latin. This is why it's important for students to pay attention to these things, because the more the Latin that they know, the more that they're going to understand English, which actually, I'll quick answer this one. This is the answer to this one as well. Why would knowing any of these, what we call Latin languages, Spanish and French and Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, and Catalan, why would it be helpful in learning English? Because these languages already have built into them tons of Latin. And so if you know tons of Latin, you're already got tons of knowledge of the English language. All right. And same thing here. How would knowing Latin help someone learn Spanish, French, English, and so on? Well, it's because if you know Latin, you already have a good foundation for learning all the rest of these languages that come from Rome. That's Romance comes from the word Rome, which is down here in Italy. Okay. All right. What else do we got to cover? Anything else? Oh, here's some examples. Here are some words that come from what we call Anglo-Saxon. This is the Old English part of our word of our language: sky, earth, moon, sun, moon, water. Pretty common words. These are the Old Saxon words, the Old German words that were brought to our language that we still use today. These Norman French words that we now use: amuse. You may not be familiar with that, but you are familiar with cousin and country, peace, soup. It's a pretty common one. Coupon. All right, and these are the purely Latin words. All right, so solar, aquarium, locomotion, designate, refer, deception, hostility, aquarium. These are often actually are words that make up a lot of our scientific and academic language and come from Latin. All right, now with that, is there anything else? Yep, there's one more thing I'm going to cover here. It's just a quick, brief history of our Latin, of our English language. Our English language was born out of what we called Old English. Germanic tribes, German tribes, ended up floating from here and migrating into this place over here. So Germanic people, because Germany didn't exist, but we would just call them Germanic tribes and people, moved into this region and they brought their language with them. Okay, so this constitutes what we call Old English. All right. This is an old plan. This is what I have this little chart here for. It started in about 450 AD, and it lasted until about 1150. And at this time, oop, zoomed in maybe a little too far. At this time, the French explorer. Here, let me see if this works. No. Yes. All right. You see that? I can write. All right. So the Norman, I think I got to sneeze. Norman French and Latin people came to, no, I'm not reading this. I'm getting off the script here. They came over into England. And when they did so, they brought their French language, which is heavily rooted in the Latin language of Rome. And having done so, let me get rid of these things because I don't want those up there anymore. It's kind of confusing me. They brought their language with them, and it started to change the language. And when they invaded, they took over, and it became kind of the academic language. The people who were rich and wealthy and educated, obviously, were controlling these areas, and they brought with them their language as such, and it sort of still occupies that today. Anyway, and then we see Middle English. Middle English is that time where the French component came And then at about 1500, the printing press started being in use, and that now is modern English, all right? That's when our language really started to start sounding like it sounds today. So the question is could you jump into a time machine, travel back to Old English, and be able to speak? And people understand you, kind of. And the answer is no, not at all. They wouldn't understand a word, and you wouldn't understand a word that they were saying. If you travel back in this time, between 1166, the 11th century, and in the 15th century, you wouldn't sound anywhere close to what that. You might start recognizing they kind of sound similar to you, but they still wouldn't sound very close. It would be difficult to understand them, and then very, very difficult to understand you. It was not until 1500 and on to, obviously it's not Monday, it's Thursday, April 6th, present day, that obviously today, but I mean, hundreds of years ago, you probably could have gotten around a bit. And obviously just within the last 200 years, you probably would have been totally fine. So that is the rough history. English made its way, just a quick review, English made its way from England. England originally, so England was taken over by France. And before it was taken over by France, which had brought the French language to this area, it was taken over by Germanic tribes who brought the German kind of sounding words that many of us speak today. All right. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to stop the video. Wow, 16 minutes. Oh, video completed. And I think that's going to be it. All right. So have a good day. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.